Douglas said he planned on heading towards Callan in hopes of finding Donald, Duck, and Oliver. We had already told him of Donald, but Oliver and Duck are still unaccounted for. This seemed to have relieved him, but he still had to check the Little Western just to be safe. We didn't know if that would be a good idea. It could be overwhelmed by zombies, but there possibly could have been survivors. With a lot of persuasion, we convinced Douglas to head up the line with us, and if we didn't find anything, we would head down the line towards the Little Western. He didn't like this idea, but after hearing all of what Toby had been through, he knew he had to come along. As we went down the line, everything was a mess. Crosby was destroyed and was covered in blood, and several bodies littered the platform, but they were unrecognizable. In the yard we saw several trucks which had been infected. No one deserves being put through that, not even a truck. God, I still can't get their demonic laughs out of my head. We passed through Henry's forest, and all the green, vibrant trees Henry had fallen in love with had turned dark and barren. They were devoid of all life as their corpses swung in the wind. We arrived at Wellsworth, and we found some survivors hiding within the station. About 8 from what I counted, but the more the better. We decided to stop and rest in the yard for a while, and as soon as we entered, the smell of blood filled the air. It was rancid, and whatever it was big. It had to be an engine. The smell grew worse as we approached the sheds. We stopped right outside and saw the doors to the berth had been smashed through. I pushed the remains aside, and as soon as I did, the smell blood overtook me, more than it had before. I tried turning on the light, and after a few clicks it worked. I looked within, and I vomited at the sight in front of me. There was an engine that was covered in dents and blood, and the paint was scratched and ruined, but the yellow paint on the tender was just visible. Molly was gone. Toby broke down into tears when he saw the remains. Henrietta comforted the little tram, and Douglas just stared at the remains. Spiteful Brakeman asked what was happening as he was in the back and couldn't see what was going on. Douglas told him that Molly was gone, and Spiteful Brakeman fell silent. I closed the remains of the shed doors to let the old D-56 rest in peace, and we moved to the nearby goods shed. Toby was telling us how he couldn't take any more, first Thomas and Spencer, then Peter, Sam, now Molly. The poor tram's mental state was going down the drain. After a few hours, Toby calmed down, and we were all talking, trying to figure out where the other engines could be. We couldn't lose anyone else. We made a plan to head down the Brendam branch to see if we could find anyone there. But before we went, Douglas said he was going to split off for a while. He had to check the Little Western. He knew the Duck and Oliver were there, and he wouldn't lose them like how we lost Molly. We knew he was right. We couldn't lose more engines, so we decided to let him go check the Little Western, while we checked the Brendam branch. Then we would meet back here. Toby and Douglas said their goodbyes, and Douglas raced down the line.